the unidentified man who appeared on the beach with no records anywhere. The morning began like any other on Bellwood Beach, quiet, soft, and deceptively ordinary. The sun was just beginning its slow rise, spilling a pale gold shimmer across the surface of the tide. Seagulls drifted lazily overhead, calling out into the untouched silence. Waves brushed the shoreline like a gentle heartbeat, steady and calm. For the beach patrol, it was supposed to be another predictable shift. They walked their usual route, boots sinking slightly into the cool sand as they scanned for jellyfish, washed-up debris, or early morning swimmers who pushed their luck. Nothing ever truly happened at Bellwood Beach, but that day something felt off. The breeze, normally crisp and moving, seemed to hesitate. The air thickened as though holding a secret. It wasn't anything obvious, just a subtle wrongness, a tension threading itself through the morning light. And then they saw it. At first it looked like driftwood, a shape in the sand, half buried, slumped unnaturally. The patrol slowed. They had found lost tourists, injured surfers, and once even a drunk man sleeping off a rough night on the shore. But this was different. They approached carefully. Lying face down on the sand was a man, motionless, limp, arms stretched out at uneasy angles as if he had been dropped there rather than washed ashore. His clothes were the first thing that caught their attention. He wore a crisp, light blue button-down shirt, neatly tucked into dark trousers, clothes far too clean, too orderly, too intentional for a man found lifeless on the beach at dawn. No sand is embedded in the fabric. No signs he had struggled. No indication that he had been in the water at all. The closer they looked, the more disturbing it became. The man's skin was sun-touched, but strangely unmarked. No tattoos, no scars, no moles, nothing identifying. His hands were immaculate. His nails are trimmed. His face was almost peaceful, as if interrupted mid-sentence, mid-breath, mid-life. And yet, he was a stranger in every sense. A patrol member leaned in to check for injuries, but the body offered no clues. No bruises, no blood. Nothing that suggested a fall, a fight, or even a natural death. It was as if he had simply ceased, quietly, cleanly, inexplicably. The only unusual detail was an odd indentation in the sand beside him. A faint pattern, almost like an imprint, too weak to decipher, as though someone had brushed it away moments before the patrol arrived. They tried to make sense of it, but the pattern dissolved with the slightest touch. Then the protocol took over. The call went out. Minutes later, Bellwood Beach was no longer just a peaceful morning scene. It was a crime scene. Police cars rolled across the sand. Investigators fanned out, their faces tightening as they examined the body. Even the seasoned officers seemed unsettled. They turned the man over gently. Still nothing. No wallet, no ID, no phone, no keys, no personal belongings. His pockets were empty, not even lint. Fingerprint scan? No match. Local missing persons? No match. Regional and national databases? Absolutely nothing. The man didn't exist. His features were ordinary but uncannily forgettable. His clothes are too pristine. His body is too preserved. There were no signs of drowning, no sign of exposure, no sign of anything recognizable as a cause of death. One of the detectives murmured what everyone was thinking, but no one dared to say louder. People don't just appear out of nowhere, and yet, that's exactly what it looked like. Before noon, rumors spread across Bellwood like wildfire. Residents whispered about foul play, a serial killer, a ritual, a government cover-up, something supernatural. In a town where almost nothing ever happened, the imagination filled the silence very quickly. But even the wildest theories couldn't explain the detail haunting every investigator's mind. How could a man with no identification, no fingerprints in any system, and no missing person trail simply show up, perfectly intact, on a quiet beach at dawn? The case was labeled Unidentified Male, Age Unknown. But the officers knew it was something stranger, something they couldn't categorize or rationalize. The more they searched, the less they found. The more they asked, the fewer answers emerged. It felt like the opening of a story none of them wanted to read. Because deep down, everyone sensed the same thing. This wasn't just a dead man. This was the beginning of something, and Bellwood Beach would never be the same again. What they didn't yet know was that this discovery, the stranger with no records anywhere, was only the beginning of a mystery that would twist deeper with every step, every clue, every new revelation. And the truth, when it finally surfaced, would be far more disturbing than anything they were prepared for. The morning after the discovery, Bellwood Beach wore its usual disguise of innocence. The sea rolled in quietly, brushing the shore with lazy confidence. The gulls circled high, dipping into the breeze as though nothing beneath them had changed. To an outsider, it was just another peaceful day in a sleepy coastal town. Detective Amanda Fisher knew better. She stood where the man had been found, her boots sinking lightly into the sand, her eyes fixed on the horizon where the ocean met the sky. She'd handled drownings, murders, and disappearances. She'd unzipped more body bags than she cared to count. But the stranger they'd pulled from the sand yesterday wasn't just another dead man. He was an anomaly, a whisper, a question without a beginning. And the more she replayed the scene in her mind, the more the puzzle gnawed at her. The man hadn't just lacked identification. He lacked a past. No scars, no sunburn patterns, no signs of a man who had lived a life anywhere, with anyone, for any span of time. Just a perfectly preserved body, placed deliberately, almost ceremonially, on a quiet stretch of beach. He was too clean, too untouched, too intentional. Fisher closed her eyes, hearing the coroner's first words, "I don't know what to tell you. He looks like someone wiped his life away." And then the autopsy confirmed what no one wanted to believe. No injuries, no toxins, no disease. Every organ is healthy, every test is normal, except for one thing. A faint metallic scent clung stubbornly to the man's clothing, subtle, unsettling, nearly impossible to locate. It didn't match the smell of blood, seawater, or industrial chemicals. The coroner described it as rust that shouldn't exist, a scent that didn't belong to any environment within miles of Bellwood Beach. Fisher had no explanation. By noon, the media latched onto the story. Headlines screamed, "The man with no name, who is he?" A body with no past found on Bellwood Beach. People wanted answers, but Fisher had none. No missing person reports matched his features. No fingerprints existed in any known database, local, state, federal, or even international. It was as if the man had bypassed existence entirely and appeared only at the moment he died. The town buzzed with theories. A lost migrant, a fugitive, a spy, a victim of something supernatural. None of it explained the truth, because there was nothing to explain. The man was a void, and voids demanded to be filled. The first hint of a lead came from Frank Hensley, an elderly fisherman with the leathery skin and glassy eyes of someone who'd lived his whole life by the tide. He told Fisher that just before dawn on the morning the body appeared, he'd seen a lone figure walking along the shoreline. Frank's voice trembled slightly as he described it. His walk was wrong, stiff, like he wasn't used to moving, like every step was something new. The description chilled Fisher. Frank watched the man for a few minutes from his boat, puzzled by the rigid posture, the slow, deliberate pacing. Then, without hesitation, the figure had turned toward the cliffs and vanished from sight. But when Fisher checked the surrounding area, she found nothing. No footprints, no security footage, no witnesses. It was as if it had swallowed the man's existence the moment Frank looked away. As more days passed, the strangeness only deepened. The stretch of beach where the body had been found showed no evidence of a struggle, no drag marks, no signs the man had walked there on his own. Even the sand around him felt undisturbed, as if he had been placed there from above, lowered gently rather than carried. The position of his body haunted Fisher. The limbs weren't splayed randomly, they were arranged, deliberate, almost ceremonial. Someone wanted him to be found, but someone also wanted him to remain a question, The metallic scent bothered her the most. She ordered chemical analyses, pressure tests, comparisons to industrial compounds. Nothing. The smell existed, faint but persistent, and it didn't match anything known. "It's like it doesn't belong to this world," one lab tech whispered. Fisher didn't respond, though the thought hadn't escaped her. Then the rumors began. Whispers of strange lights near the cliffs in the early morning hours. Shadowed figures moving along the coast after midnight. Stories of voices echoing from the shoreline when no one was there. None of it had evidence. None of it could be trusted. But every whisper added another layer to the fear settling over Bellwood. Fisher kept returning to the body in her mind. The blank face, the clean clothing, the metallic scent that clung to the air like a warning. The man was a message, but from who and why? She knew she had a narrow window before the case slipped into the cold files, swallowed by time and unanswered questions. But she also knew something else, something she couldn't shake. This wasn't the end of something. It was the beginning. The man on the beach wasn't just unidentified. He was impossible. And Amanda Fisher had the sinking feeling that whatever story he belonged to, Bellwood Beach was only seeing the first chapter. Weeks slipped by after the discovery of the unidentified man on Bellwood Beach, yet the case refused to settle. Instead of answers, the mystery only grew teeth. Local curiosity had transformed into a national obsession. News outlets were running segments on him daily. Reddit threads ballooned by the hour. TikTok conspiracy theorists spun theories faster than the police could debunk them. Some called him a government operative erased from existence. Others claimed he was a test subject from a classified military experiment. A few insisted he was a fugitive escaping a past too dark to be recorded. The theories were endless, but none of them brought Detective Amanda Fisher even an inch closer to the truth. What Fisher did know was this. Someone had gone to great lengths to wipe this man off the face of the earth. This wasn't a crime of passion or an accidental tragedy. This was deliberate, calculated, designed. And then, finally, a crack in the case. The breakthrough came from the forensic team's painstaking analysis of the man's clothes. Every fiber, every stain, every microscopic trace had been examined. And it was a single, nearly invisible substance embedded in the fabric of his shirt that changed the entire trajectory of the investigation. A rare soil. Not from Bellwood Beach. Not from anywhere within the state. It originated from a region hundreds of miles away, a location almost no one ever visited. The implications were immediate and chilling. He didn't arrive on the beach. He was brought there. Fisher followed the trail. It led her to a windswept cliffside overlooking the same coastline, but to a place the public had long forgotten. Hidden behind thorny overgrowth and rusted fencing was a research facility, one that had supposedly been shut down decades ago. On paper, the facility had died quietly. In reality, it felt abandoned in a hurry. The moment Fisher stepped through the gate, the air shifted. The place wasn't just old, it was wrong. Inside, the corridors groaned with the wind. Broken machinery lay scattered like bones. Documents were strewn across the floor as though someone had fled mid-operation. And lingering in the air was a faint metallic scent, the same one found on the man's clothing. Her instincts sharpened. She swept through the facility, past shattered monitors and overturned chairs, until she reached a back room sealed behind a rusted steel door. It took effort to push it open. Inside was a storage room filled with crates, dusty equipment, and stacks of forgotten paperwork. She sifted through the debris, old reports, outdated research notes, until her hand brushed something that didn't belong. A leather-bound journal, fragile, yellowed, nearly falling apart. She opened it carefully. The handwriting inside was frantic, uneven, as if the writer had been racing against time. The entries described a covert research program conducted at the facility years ago. The details were coded, incomplete, but the central idea was unmistakable. A project designed to erase a person's identity. Not just from public records, not just from databases, but from existence. A person with no past, no history, no traceable footprint. A human ghost engineered to slip through the cracks of society. Fisher read faster, her heartbeat pounding. Could the man on the beach have been one of these subjects? Had someone wiped his identity, then abandoned him? But the final entry forced her to stop. 6 words written in a trembling hand. The man who would disappear forever. The words echoed in her skull. This wasn't an experiment that simply collapsed. Something had gone wrong. Terribly wrong. Had the subject escaped? Had someone tried to silence him? Or had the experiment produced results no one anticipated? The deeper Fisher dug, the darker the shadows around the case became. The facility wasn't just abandoned. It was buried, erased from online archives, hidden from government registries. Someone wanted every part of this operation dead and forgotten. As Fisher stepped back into the empty hallway, clutching the journal like a lifeline, the truth settled over her. This case wasn't about a John Doe on a beach. It was about a program capable of unmaking a human being. A program someone would do anything to hide. And the man who washed ashore? He wasn't the ending. He was the beginning. A warning. A clue. A loose thread in a conspiracy that was about to unravel in ways Fisher was not prepared for. The beach had given her a body. Now it had given her a secret. But somewhere out there, someone knew she had found it. And they were watching. The deeper Detective Amanda Fisher went into the case, the more the world around her seemed to twist into something unrecognizable. What had started as a simple, unidentified individual report had now become a maze of secrets, lies, and deliberately buried histories. Project Erasure. The name alone felt like a warning. The journal she'd found inside the abandoned cliffside facility read like a confession or a final cry for help. It described a covert program that didn't just remove a person from records, it removed them from reality. No identity, no past, no trace. Subjects were engineered to exist in plain sight, yet remain invisible to systems, databases, and even the people who once knew them. It sounded like science fiction, but the evidence was undeniable. Fisher spent days digging deeper. She traced the origins of the project to a private research corporation with deep, hidden ties to several high-ranking government agencies. Official files claimed the project had been shut down decades ago. The facility closed, staff relocated, operations terminated. But the journal had already exposed the lie. Project Erasure hadn't been shut down. It had been buried. And the man found on Bellwood Beach, he wasn't the first. Fisher cross-checked old missing person cases, each one dismissed as a coincidence or misadventure. Patterns emerged, people who vanished without a trace, individuals whose past seemed to evaporate overnight, and cases quietly closed without resolution. She finally saw it, a trail of ghosts left behind by a project that should never have existed. Bellwood Beach was no accident either. It was remote, isolated, and overlooked. A perfect dumping ground for bodies or experiments no one was supposed to find. Her focus sharpened, her obsession deepened, and the danger crept closer. The warning arrived at midnight, a blocked number, a distorted voice. "Stop digging, Fisher. You don't know what you're walking into." The line went dead. It wasn't a threat. It was a promise. Within days, her private data leaked online, her home address, her police ID, her family contacts. Someone hacked her phone, emails flooded with cryptic messages, and twice she spotted a figure watching her from across the street, only for them to vanish the moment she approached. The system she trusted began turning against her. Colleagues avoided her, supervisors shut doors in her face. Someone powerful wanted her out of the way. But Fisher refused to stop. Not now. Not when people's lives had been rewritten, erased. Her breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Clara Hughes, a former technician at the abandoned facility. Fisher found her living under a new name in a small town hours away. At first, Clara wouldn't talk. Her hands trembled, eyes constantly darting to the windows. But after hours of coaxing and the assurance that Fisher wasn't working for them, Clara broke. And what she revealed was worse than Fisher imagined. They didn't just erase identities, Clara whispered, voice shaking. They erased memories, too. Everything. People forgot who they were, who they loved, who they used to be. Fisher froze. Clara continued, tears gathering in her eyes. They rebuilt them, piece by piece, new names, new personalities, new pasts. Then they released them back into society like they were fixed, but they weren't. They were hollow, just shells. Fisher's stomach tightened. The man on the beach, he hadn't just lost his identity, it had been stolen. Clara leaned closer, lowering her voice. And the worst part? Some subjects didn't adjust. Their minds fought back. They broke. Those were the ones they disposed of, the failures. A cold silence filled the room. Project Erasure wasn't a simple cover-up. It was a psychological weapon, one that had destroyed countless lives. And now Fisher realized why she was being hunted. She wasn't just getting close to the truth. She was walking straight into the heart of a machine designed to eliminate anyone who threatened it. As Fisher drove home that night, a single thought echoed in her mind. The man on Bellwood Beach wasn't a mistake. He was a message. Project Erasure wasn't dead. It was very much alive. And someone out there was willing to do anything to keep it that way. The storm had been gathering from the moment Detective Amanda Fisher stepped onto Bellwood Beach. She simply hadn't known it was meant for her. Now, standing on the edge of the truth, the winds finally shifted, and the conspiracy she'd been chasing for weeks towered over her like a living shadow, ready to swallow everything she was. Project Erasure had cost her sleep. It had cost her safety. And somewhere along the line, it had started to cost her sanity. But she had come too far to turn back. Her latest lead, a series of encrypted personnel files buried deep inside a forgotten server, pointed to one last surviving architect of the project, Dr. Elias Harrow, the mastermind, the man whose hands shaped the erasures, the memory wipes, the rewritten lives, the ghost who vanished when the project shut down. Fisher hunted him across cities, records, aliases, until the trail finally led her deep into the woods, to a lonely cabin swallowed by overgrown pines and silence thick enough to choke on. This was it. The truth lived behind that door. She knocked once, twice. The hinges groaned, and the man she had chased across the ruins of her own life appeared, older, drained, but with eyes that carried the weight of 1,000 stolen memories. "Amanda Fisher," he murmured, as though greeting an old acquaintance. His tone was not surprised, not afraid, just resigned. "You've come too far, and there's no going back." Fisher's pulse hammered, but her voice held steady. "You're going to tell me why. Why did you erase them? Why did you rewrite their lives? What you hoped to gain?" Harrow exhaled almost with pity. "It was never about destruction," he said. "It was about control, about the possibility. Imagine a world where the past doesn't limit anyone. No crimes, no trauma, no identity to box you in. A clean slate. Rebirth." Fisher's jaw tightened. "That wasn't rebirth. You gutted them, Harrow. You stripped human beings of their lives and molded them into something else." A flicker of regret passed through his eyes. "Maybe so, but you don't understand what we were truly building." Fisher stepped closer. "Then explain it." Harrow hesitated, and then he said the words that split Fisher's world down the center. "You weren't investigating this project, Amanda." A pause. "You were remembering it." Fisher froze. "What did you just say?" Harrow's voice softened, but the truth cut like a blade. "You weren't just a victim of Project Erasure. You were one of its earliest subjects." The room tilted. The oxygen vanished. For the first time in her career, Fisher felt her mind slipping. "No," she whispered. "No, that's impossible." "You feel connected to this case because it is your case," Harrow continued gently. "We took your past. We rebuilt you. Everything you think you remember, your childhood, your family, your career, was implanted." Fisher staggered back, grabbing onto a chair before her knees buckled. She shook her head violently. I have memories. I have a life. I have people. You have programming, Harrow corrected, emotion cracking through the calm facade. We gave you a life to keep you stable, to keep you functional. Fisher clutched her head, flashes of her past, birthdays, her mother's laughter, a partner's embrace, flickering like a damaged film reel. Fabricated? Constructed? Her breaths came shallow, rapid. This is a lie, she snapped. You're manipulating me. But Harrow didn't argue. He simply looked at her, with sorrow. I've spent years trying to dismantle the project, he said, but it's bigger than me, bigger than you. There are dozens like you, people living lives that aren't theirs, ghosts wearing borrowed memories. Fisher felt herself unravel. Her entire identity, her purpose, her name. Could all of it be a carefully curated illusion? She rose to her feet slowly, trembling, as if learning to stand again. If what you're saying is true, she whispered, then who was I, before all of this? Harrow's silence was answer enough. He didn't know, or he wouldn't say. And suddenly, Fisher saw the truth. The conspiracy wasn't around her. It was inside her. For the first time, fear clawed at her. Not fear of enemies lurking in the shadows, but of the stranger living behind her own eyes. Harrow stepped back. You have a choice, he told her softly. Expose the truth and tear open a world built on fragile identities, or walk away and protect the life you've built, the life we gave you. The weight settled on her like an avalanche. If she exposed Project Erasure, everything, society, justice, identity itself, could fracture. But if she buried it, she would never know who she truly was. Fisher stood motionless, her face blank, her pulse thunderous. Her breath trembled in the air. The camera closes in. Her eyes flicker. Between fear, between fury, between the woman she thought she was and the ghost she might truly be. And just before the screen cuts to black, a single tear slides down her cheek.